Welcome back to the FreeMelon Society, my lovely FreeMelons. I'm Eli Martyr, and I'm here at the Graham residence once again for another little session here in the library. The last time I read from Health Unlimited, and I'm going to read from the same book. There's another chapter in that book that deals with herbs, and I thought it was an interesting chapter. They're very short chapters, so we're going to read the chapter, I'm going to have some commentary, and that's going to be it. Just something that I felt that you should hear. I'm having a fantastic time here with the Graham family. They're treating me very well and looking forward to a bunch of things that we've got planned for the coming week. So today we have a little bit of free time and figured I'd jump back here in the library and do something else for you guys. So we are going to be reading once again from Health Unlimited by Dr. Alan Immerman. All right. And we're going to explore what he's got to say about herbs. So I'll try to go through everything as written here, but of course I like to make readers' asides every once in a while and just give some commentary. So let's get into it. Herbs. An herb is any type of vegetative growth. All growing plants, therefore, can be classified as herbs. Some herbs, such as lettuce and celery, are foods. Some herbs, such as sweet basil and summer savory, are seasonings. Other herbs, such as ginseng and golden seal, may in fact be medicines. What is the place in a healthful living program for herbs? Well, obviously, the herbs which can be used as foods should be included in generous amounts. Eat plenty of lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots, squash, green beans, peas, and all other herbs, which can be used as foods. The herbs which can be used as seasoning are good foods with an appealing aroma and taste. The list of such herbs includes sweet basil, summer savory, marjoram, thyme, oregano, mint, sage, and others. One of the best ways to make food taste good without using salt is to develop a combination of flavorful herbs to sprinkle on the food. The last major category of herbs is the type used as medicines. Herbs in this category are sometimes recommended as quote-unquote cures for arthritis, constipation, or even cancer. Now, should you include medicinal herbs in your health building program? It is best to avoid medicinal herbs, period. All right? One more time. It is best to avoid medicinal herbs. The fact is that medicinal herbs in many cases are identical to drugs. We're going to read that one more time. The fact is that medicinal herbs in many cases are identical to drugs. So, quick readers aside, we have three categories of herbs. They're all vegetables, they're all plants, and then we have the herbs that can be used as foods themselves, so that you would just eat if you're hungry. You've got herbs that are not necessarily food because their flavors are too pungent, too irritating, too biting, okay? So those herbs we would call seasonings, or we would use as seasonings. And then we also have herbs that are medicinal, which is another way of saying that they are toxic. Okay, reading on. Can you pull any green plant from the soil and safely eat it? Recently, a passenger on a river trip unknowingly tested this concept. When the boat stopped at a beach along the river, the passenger picked a pretty green plant and ate it. Within minutes, he was dead. The plant happens to be water hemlock, a deadly poison. Clearly then, all green plants are not safe. Some are fine to use as foods, whereas others are extremely toxic. We must be discriminating about which herbs we eat. You may not know that many medicinal drugs have come from herbs. Large pharmaceutical companies send teams of researchers to the far ends of the earth to find out what herbs the natives use when they become sick. When the scientists find a popular plant, they bring samples back to the lab, isolate the chemicals within the plant that have drug effects, develop methods of synthesizing these chemicals in a laboratory, and market their new drug. A few hundred years ago, pioneers in North America found Indians using the bark of the willow tree to get rid of headache pain. What could seem more natural than the bark of a tree? Yet, the reason the bark helps with headaches is because it contains salicylic acid, the chemical in aspirin. Salicylic acid is a drug, whether it's found in the willow bark or in aspirin tablets. The foxglove plant contains digitalis, a powerful and potentially dangerous heart drug. Okay, now this is a key sentence here, so we'll focus on this. The only difference between taking foxglove and purified digitalis is the concentration of digitalis. The adverse effects of foxglove are the same as for digitalis. Did you get that? So there's no difference between taking a pharmaceutical drug that is sourced from a medicinal herb. There's no difference between that and taking the herb itself. The only difference is that in the lab, they concentrate the chemicals more so, but it's the same poison. So let's say we're talking about the willow bark tree. Okay, which is worse, aspirin or using the raw willow bark tree, or preparing it in whatever way they do, put it in boiling water and whatever. Yeah, fine. If I'm being held at gunpoint and forced to choose between the two, I suppose I'll take the willow bark in its natural form as opposed to aspirin, right? I mean, Christ, there's a lot of things that I would rather do than take an aspirin.
No, 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 no!
I would be willing to go so far as to extract the stomach acid from a goddamn Komodo dragon, mix that with some alpaca feces, load that up into a syringe, and then take the syringe and insert it directly into my retina, right?
Stop.
But it's just important to understand that either way, aspirin or salicylic acid, you're still taking drugs because it's the toxic effect that the pharmaceutical industry likes and capitalizes on, in hopes that you don't know any better, in hopes that you don't recognize the similarity between poisoning yourself with one method as opposed to another. And there's no real difference. Okay, moving on. There is a new book, The Honest Herbal, published in 1981, which is an excellent reference on herbs. Every statement about herbs is backed up by a reference to a scientific journal. A list of herbs which are proven to be unsafe includes angelica, apricot pits, laetrile. Readers aside, okay, you guys are probably familiar with the whole promotion of apricot seeds, apricot kernels, and their anti-cancerous effects, right? You guys have all heard that. There's more to the story than just that. It's not that these are anti-cancerous, you take them, and you can recover. There's more to consider because these things are toxic. That's why they taste so objectionable. You would never eat apricot seeds as just a meal because your body's giving you an indication that there's something up with them. There's a chemical or a compound in them that is offensive. So you want to keep track of that. Moving on. So this is a list of herbs that are proven to be unsafe, all right? Angelica, apricot pits, which is laetrile, blue cohosh, broom, calamus. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce this. Canegri or Canegra? I don't know how to pronounce this. Chaparral, coltsfoot, comfrey, donkai, eyebright, life-root, mistletoe, poke-root, sassafras, and wormwood. Don't underestimate the danger of these herbs. Sassafras and comfrey, for instance, have been proven to cause cancer. Readers aside, comfrey is the herb, just off the top of my head, so you double check what I'm saying, but comfrey, if I'm not mistaken, is a renowned herb for mending bone damage. So if you have fractures in the bones, it helps to knit the bones back together, or it's claimed to have a utility in mending the bones. But again, there are better ways to go about healing, namely, do nothing, right? Just eat minimally and of the best food, fast, and wait. Mother Nature makes it pretty damn easy. Oh, by the way, sorry, if you have a horrible fracture and your bones are misshapen and what, go to the hospital. They can readjust you. Set bones in their right place, all right? That you can get help for, okay? So I'm not saying if your leg is split in half, don't do anything. No, that's not what I'm saying. Go to the hospital, okay? Come on now.
Just loose. Good.
All right, underestimate the danger of these herbs. Sassafras and comfrey, for instance, have been proven to cause cancer. There are many other herbs that are not definitely known to be dangerous, but their safety is in doubt. The list includes bayberry, betony, black cohosh, devil's claw, ginseng, gotu kola, juniper, licorice, lobelia, Mormon tea, muria puama, pollen, propolis, raspberry, tansy, and yohimbe. Ginseng, the most popular of this group of herbs, has been linked to disturbances in blood pressure and mood. Herbs which are considered safe are alfalfa, aloe, arnica, barberry, boneset, borage, bunchu, burdock, calendula, chamomile, yarrow, chickweed, chicory, cucurbita, damiana, dandelion, echinacea, fennel, fenugreek, foti, garlic, gentian, golden seal, hawthorn, hibiscus, horsehound, horsetail, hyssop, kelp, linden, flowers, lovage, mullein, myrrh, nettle, papaya, passion flower, peppermint, red bush tea, red clover, rose hips, rosemary, St. John's wort, sarsaparilla, savory, saw palmetto, skullcap, senega, snake root, senna, spirulina, uva ursi, valerian, witch hazel, yellow dock, and yucca. It is important to understand that some of the herbs which are considered safe, such as golden seal, still may have drug effects in the body, including side effects. Scientists consider aspirin, Tylenol, and Motrin safe, even though they are drugs with many side effects. Many people resort to herbs in attempts to correct health problems. When the body is not working properly and we feel ill, by removing the cause of illness, for instance, stress, improper foods, lack of rest, etc., attempting to cure, quote-unquote, cure the disease with herbs will never help the body to heal faster, okay? A medicinal herb will only cover up the symptoms of disease, much like aspirin masks the cause of headache pain. Since the symptoms of disease are not the disease itself, getting rid of symptoms will not improve health. Greater health can only come from a deeper commitment to healthful living practices. Don't settle for less than the real thing. Dietary changes, exercise programs, more relaxation, and other beneficial changes will dramatically improve your health.
Okay, so we've gone through the chapter now, and I hope what that's done is it's instilled at least a clearer perspective. It's created a framework, a lens with which to properly perceive herbs and what their relationship to the human body really is, at least in terms of the medicinal herbs, okay? Now, of course, this is likely to inspire a very obvious follow-up question. Okay, so what are we to make of the profession of herbalism? We have this rich, extensive body of knowledge people have poured their lives into in order to understand the relationship between some herbs and organ functions, specific organ functions, what specific herbs do to the body. How do combinations of herbs either neutralize, negate, or complement each other to have more potent effects on particular organs or organ systems? On and on and on it goes. There's a vast world of information here that herbal aficionados have dedicated themselves to. So what do we make of that? Is all of that knowledge useless? The answer is no, of course not. Of course it's not useless. For example, we just talked about Advil early on in this lesson, okay? Advil is an incredibly toxic drug. It is very, very bad for your body. It's physiologically destructive. It'll deregulate your hormones. It'll acidify the tissues. It has all sorts of awful effects. Now, let's just say there's a practitioner, a doctor, a healer, whatever it is, and they're very up to speed on natural principles, natural hygiene, and natural science, okay? And they prescribe Advil knowing that the patient is not the type of patient that has either the knowledge, emotional stability, awareness, discipline, etc., to work with and accept whatever amount of pain they are experiencing in the short term and go through that with as much grace as possible until the body starts to heal itself. Okay, let's just say the practitioner knows that this person isn't capable of that, and the pain that they're reporting is just unbearable. Well, being a mindful practitioner, it might be of use for that patient to use aspirin very temporarily until the body can make some semblance of healing, and then the practitioner would tell them to stop using Advil, okay, if this is a good practitioner. Now, Advil is very toxic, of course, but does that mean that there is no use for Advil ever in life? Of course, we can't say that, because context is everything. There is much wisdom in herbal sciences. And I think that the responsible herbalist, a good herbalist, would be up to speed on what the relationship between those and the human body or the physiology is, okay? And not be under any delusions about what herbs are doing and why the body reacts in a specific way to those herbs, okay? I think there's a bit of mythos here where we believe that the herbs are loving the body and that they add some intelligence to the body to help the body do something that it couldn't have done without the herb. And if you're asking me, this isn't exactly the case. It is, if we know from our natural hygiene principles, it is the body that is acting. And when medicinal herbs are introduced into the body tissues, if it causes the metabolic machinery to ramp up or do something beyond its normal level of stimulation, then it's probably because whatever was introduced was offensive, right? So the herbalist would have to know this. It would have to have the ability to call a spade, all right? And of course, if the herbalist does have that awareness, then their knowledge would be of immense use to the world, because now you have a practitioner who has a much milder approach to conventional allopathic medicine that a patient can go to when circumstances truly do call for some sort of intervention. There are circumstances where a patient is going through some very unique and peculiar circumstance. I'm not going to bother going through examples. Just use your imagination. There's all sorts of combinations of lifestyle factors, genetics, environment, trauma, whatever it is, where they're experiencing something peculiar or unique or intractable or esoteric, whereby the use of a certain medicinal herb might be of benefit. And it would be up to the informed and cunning herbalist to be able to recognize when herbalism is the right approach. I think that's the important point that I'm trying to press here. We shouldn't listen to this lecture and make the black and white judgment that medicinal herbs are all toxic and therefore you should never use them. I don't think that's a call that we can make, because context is everything. The good herbalist, the true herbalist, would understand this very well, but also, because of their knowledge and awareness, is able to draw on a much more informed perspective as to when to use herbs and when not to. See, the cunning herbalist would probably know that in most cases, it's not herbs that the patient needs. It's just some sort of very simple lifestyle tweak that allows the body to do its thing. But if there's a very specific condition where the herbalist knows that the patient isn't in a position or doesn't have the power to make that fix themselves, then yeah, of course, then we can use the herbalist's extensive knowledge in all the different types of herbs and what effects they have, and help the patient get back on their feet.
Okay, good. Okay, deep breath. Good.
Okay, and once they're on the way, then you wean off the herbs and Bob's your uncle, right? So I think it was very important to add this little caveat at the end of this lecture. We should not interpret any of this to mean that herbalism is unnecessary. The wisdom of herbalism is unnecessary because that would not be correct. Okay? And just like you could find some context out there to justify the use of aspirin or Tylenol or any other really offensive medicinal drug, you could do the exact same thing with herbalism. And in fact, at least with the herbal approach, you're not getting the excessively concentrated doses of toxins that you would in the pharmaceutical world, right? We're getting a much milder approach to healing. Okay, so just wanted to put that out there.
That's brilliant, right? Fantastic chapter from Health Unlimited. I do agree with pretty much everything in that chapter. The one last addition I would probably make is the list of safe herbs that were provided. Wouldn't mind recommending them, but it's good to remember that I think just like all the toxic herbs, the safe herbs are also toxic. It's just a matter of degree. The degree is so mild that we can get away with using them with no trouble because the body is fantastic. So I think it's just a matter of degree with the safe herbs. But really, if you're looking for the best way to heal, there is no other way to do it than just letting the body do its thing. That's where true healing comes from. And the more we empower the body to do that, then the more health we get access to. I love you very much. Thank you so much for joining me here once again, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you like this content, and I'll see you next time. Mwah. Take care.